Alright guys, so we're going to go through the build for the boards we were coding, and I'll go through the MP lab bullshit we had to do and what we had to do. This is the make file, not a whole lot of useful information there. I have my PickKit 4 plugged in, though I don't use it on this mode, and if I just build it in clean and build, or just build it, you come down here and yells about some stuff, but it builds. I have memory. There's some things I had to do to get to this point. This is the algorithm. I messed with this. This is some of the parabolic ramping stuff, but that doesn't really matter as much anymore. Had to change some of the naming schemes around, but there's nothing. This is basically how the marker wants to function. There's nothing exactly changing in here. This is the board check. This is checking if you have the battery indicator board or not, comparing it to itself. This is the C. So these first three are C codes, or they're C. This is what you write, and then you have H, which is the hex. This defines most of our words, all of our mechanical bounces, fire mode, stuff like that. This is what I did most of the tinkering with. Calm down, it's the firing mode stuff. So you got your trigger, all this kind of stuff here. Actually, I just lied to you. It's not that. I did the trick. The algorithm has the firing mode stuff. This is what this stuff here. This is how I got it to break down to be. By changing this is how I got to break down into the new setup, or the new NXL legal mode, and that was the biggest change. This just calls the macros and the other H files and the C file. Board check. This is the other area. This one's kind of nicer. Everyone kind of changes. This just changes the default settings. So you just change whatever you want to be stock. Is here. These are the increments. All this can change. There's actually enough memory on the board. So what I did is I put the minimum rate of fire. It used to be 11. I brought all the way down to 1 balls per second, because now I can play anything. You can really do anything you want with it then. And I brought the max up to 40. That doesn't really matter. Increments are 1 ball a second increments. I could make it less, but that's really not the intention of this board. I don't really want to baffle you guys with too many, like, just excessive options. It'll shoot 10, it'll shoot 5, it'll shoot 15, it'll shoot whatever it's gonna be. You're dialing it in. I know some people like doing that, but it's more of a nuisance in this case than actually good. Dwell, I put the dwell to 14 milliseconds from 18. 18's for a DM, 14's for an angel. So I can adjust that depending on what board it's going on. So ball in place, 1 millisecond. Firing modes. There's 4 firing modes. It says 3. He had it 1. I cleaned that up, brought it all up here. Default firing mode's 3. 3 is what's called PSP in this, but that's NXL, new NXL mode, or current NXL mode. And the macro define. This is defining the LED outputs, stuff like that. And yeah, it builds. It builds correctly, which is nice. We got room to spare, a little bit. Program space 98.1%, so we could add a little more tweaking if possible, but there's very little extra space on this board to even get that to run. This was the bigger problem. Oop, wrong thing. I hope you guys can see that. Oh, see it now, right? Okay. So I had to put the PickKit 4 in. I'm using the XC8 code language or something. I'm not even sure what the hell that is. I had it on the trial for Pro. I don't think I have that anymore, and it's still loading successfully. So whatever they did from back then to now, you don't need to have a Pro software to actually make this work anymore, which is great. So memory's program. I allow the PickKit to program it. I'm not really using any debug options for that. Tool options, LED brightness, whatever. So I'm using my program speed as low. That was a suggestion that was made because it's a slower chip, It's not really, it's a pretty basic chip, doesn't program too fast, so that's really the only thing I changed there. Power, I'm letting the computer power it as I'm doing it there. Tool pack, use the latest tool pack. And programmer to go is set up, which is actually pretty nice. Loading, nothing there. I didn't change anything. So the C standard, I had to switch back to C90. I think it's C99. Yeah, that's the other one. It's C90. There's like 2 spots to do that. Stack options, didn't touch that. XC compiler, nothing in the pre-processing. Optimization, I went full on S, which is the optimize yet more, favoring size, so that tries to reduce the file as much as possible. So I ignore the qualifiers with that. The linker, so I had to change the float size to 24. I let the size of double. I left it at 32-bit, but it's not really a 32-bit thing. So I changed the float size to 24, and that's really what helped me get this thing through. I don't fill the flash memory, and there's really no reporting or anything. I just want to show you guys all the settings. Code coverage. So all that is all of the settings set up for this to run. It does run successfully. It does yell about certain sign conventions and stuff like that, but it builds, and like the way I read it on the forums is it doesn't really matter. If it builds, it builds. And if it has warnings, it's okay. It just does it build. This is a very glitchy software. So let me get you guys back. Sorry about that. Let me get you guys back to this just to see it all again. And yeah. So that's it. The rundown on how the coding software works with the MP Lab IDE v5.5. Actually, it's just updated as I was turning it on. So I was actually kind of nervous that this thing would actually still post, but it posts fully, which is great. Next, I'm going to give you a camera shot of me actually just programming a board, and that's next on the list. Alright guys, this is going to get real professional real quick, because I'm holding the camera, I'm recording my computer screen. I set this up for programmer to go mode. I'm just going to get rid of this, because we don't need this anymore. So you're probably going to see my knees and stuff like that. This is the newest board, newest iteration of the board right there. We'll zoom into that a little bit. This is a chip, it's already been coded. We're going to code it again just to show you guys the coding process. Some BS. So I put it in programmer to go mode. These cords are incredibly fragile, and apparently they just have shitty cords that they brought these with, and that's 90% of what kills them is cord issues. So instead of doing that, this is that board I made. And I'll see if that did it. Yep, we landed in the slots. So you press that button, there's an SD card or a micro SD card in it. It flashes a bunch of times as it does things, back to green. It successfully programmed. This circuit board, or this microchip I should say. Sorry, I gotta get real close here, guys. Let's do this. Put that off to the side. To insert it. Into the board. Come on. Hard to do this one-handed. Turns on. You gotta put this on so you can hear it click. It's ramping. I have this DM carcass sitting here. Easier to do than trying to get an angel, but the angel eyes do work as well. So both sets of eyes are functioning. So green, put my finger in, red, which is excellent. The angel eyes function as well. I don't have an angel carcass to show you. Turn it off. Hold the trigger. In programming mode, that's fire mode. So let's go to 1, and that would be semi. Turn the eyes off. So real great stuff. This battery is dying a little bit on this one. I've been testing with that one for a long time. But yeah, this is the very complete LCD board. I started working on the IR3 board and the IR3, the 04 speed, the A4 fly board, I should say. Then the 05 speed will be its own different board entirely. And everything post 05, so the G7s would be another board as well, because the trigger does something different. They how they set the triggers up were different, and I don't want to cut a piece off the trigger to put a new board in like the other boards do. So that's where we're at now. I know it's a little hokey, my production value right here, but is what it is. Chips placed where it's not interfering with anything. I got the MOSFET slammed over as much as I could to get it out into that groove, which is nice. It's positioned the way I want. Position the heatsink is going upwards and towards the body, which is a big aluminum heatsink in itself. It's got 3 buttons, only 2 of them do something. The third one's just there to hold its place. The light is positioned to be in the battery charging port. Dip switches are easy to get to if you want to put it in 20 lock or anything like that. And all of the 9-volt battery goes in here. I'm going to still do it off of the switch to turn the main power on and off, and this would be more of your safety on and off switch. The solenoid, it's set up correctly for an LCD. LCDs, they came in that way. That's just the way the wires want to be, is positioned this way and turn 90 degrees, versus every other Angel, which is positioned different than that. So that was a big deal to me to get it positioned well. The DMI just kind of, you know, that's not stock, so it does whatever it does. And the Angel Eye is set up to be, if this is to ever replace like something that was flied or whatever, then it's set up to go correctly right there. So this is the board as of now. I have like 20 of them that I'm building to do testing and put them in some of my guns and stuff and give them to some of my friends. And then we'll move on to doing like a production run of these. I'm happy enough with the code. I'm happy enough where things are standing right now. This is probably the major update of these. You'll see the IR3 boards coming when I get those built, and the further boards as well. I have every generation Angel to make sure I have a board that fits, and that's kind of my goal, is make them fit in it. And then maybe we'll move on to some other markers and get some other boards and get 10 balls a second ready. You know, ramp in guns that need it. And you have 5 balls a second mode, 5 balls a second semi if you want to play one of those Iron Man classics or something like that, or one of these old school Electros. And you're going to have full adjustability from 1 to infinite, basically, 1 to 40. So you can do whatever you want as far as firing mode in a competition, semi or ramp. Alright guys, this is Andrew at Flory PB. That's it for this update.